How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I am working on this 2020 GMC Sierra. I am installing this 2.5-inch leveling kit. This block basically goes in between the bottom of the strut and the lower control arm. It should raise 2.5 inches to the front of the truck. And we're just going to get straight into it. So to begin with, first step, we're going to start with removing these 10mm bolts with my 10mm socket and small little ratchet. These lines are for the braking system and ABS cables. So whenever we drop everything, we won't be pulling and we don't risk anything getting tore apart. So we'll go ahead and remove these lines. Should be 4 bolts in total. And next we are going to move on to removing the tie rod end, and we'll be using a 21mm socket. I use my impact gun just to speed the process up. After, you will hit it with your hammer and it should pop right out. And next we are going to be using a 18mm socket with the impact gun to remove the sway bar link nut, and it should pop right out. And next you'll be using a 18mm wrench. You'll be using it to remove the upper control arm nut. A little time consuming, but after a couple spins, it should free the upper control arm and the spindle. Should separate them apart. It should pop right out. And this is also the reason why we removed the ABS harness from the spindle, just so it won't cause any strain on the lines. And now we move on to our final step before installing our spacers. We're going to be using a 15mm socket, and we're going to be removing these 2 bolts that go in the lower control arm strut mount. So you'll be removing these 2 bolts. And after removing these 2 bolts, the strut should separate from the lower control arm. It should give you enough space to slide in the spacer in. And now we move on to the step that we've all been waiting for, the best and funnest step, which is actually installing the spacer. You'll be grabbing your spacer and sliding in between the lower of the strut and the lower control arm. You'll be grabbing your 2 washers and your 2 bolts. You'll be lining them up. Once they're all lined up, you'll grab your other 2 washers and your 2 nuts, and you'll be screwing in the bottom part of it. Keep in mind I'm doing this with one hand, so it's not a super difficult job. If you're hesitating to do it DIY, I recommend you just going ahead and going for it, because honestly it's very possible to do if you have little to no mechanic experience. And here I am, just finishing up and putting my last washer and my last nut, screwing everything in, and also make sure you get to tighten them up good. I'll be using my impact gun and a wrench to tighten them up. Make sure you do it for both sides. And now we're going to be putting everything back together. Same way it came out, same way it's going to go back in. Starting off with the spindle to the upper control arm. As you can see, it's kind of far apart still from the actual joint, so we'll be using a jack to push up the lower control arm, the whole spindle itself, so it can connect better to the upper control arm joint. And once you have that joint pushed back into the spindle, you'll just be screwing it back on with your wrench. And now we move on to the next step, which is your tie rod end, the one that connects to the spindle. You'll be sliding that right in using the same nut. It's a 21mm. You'll be using your impact gun again. Make sure you tighten it up good. Next, we will be putting the nut back in for the link. You can use your impact gun for that one also. And the last and final step for this project would be to screw in your 10mm bolts back in place for your ABS harness and the brake line. Always make sure to put these back. You don't want your harness, ABS harness, and your brake line to be moving around as you're steering and could possibly pop your lines, cause other problems in the future. And there you go, guys. That's how you install the 2.5-inch leveling spacer kit on your 2020 GMC Sierra. That could be anything from 07 all the way to 23. It will be the same process. If you like the video, like it up. And like always, thank you for watching.